Good evening, Brendan Prince here from the charity Above Water on our last day, our last evening of our SUP Safety Week. So the whole point of this little video is to draw everything to a close. Thank you for being the audience who have helped to spread our message, to share, to like everything we've been putting out. And remember that actually the people I'm speaking to now are the converted, are the ones that wanted to listen, are the ones wanted to learn about stand-up paddleboarding and to do it safely. So it's about us as a community, as a SUP community, sharing that message to all those that perhaps don't know. So the whole point of SUP Safety Week is just to raise awareness. It's not to highlight that you need expensive kit. SUP is a great accessible way of all of us getting on the water. And a lot of our stats have shown that. Now, we've been referring to our SUP Safety Week, our SUP Safety Survey all week. And I just wanted to run down some of those facts to sort of conclude the messages really. 81% of you have inflatable boards, like one of mine. And I've actually got all my boards here to kind of show you that I am a SUPper. I'm a stand-up paddleboarder myself. That's my first ever board, bought in 2006. And then I've got race boards and family boards and surf boards, and because I'm a lifeguard, I've got my rescue SUP and a rescue board. So I know about boards. 81% of you have got inflatable boards. 60% of you bought them over the internet. Now this is the bad bit. 84% of you never received any advice about safety when you got those boards. 67% of you said that you actually don't know what you're doing on a SUP. So you've got it, you're taking it out in the water, fresh water, salt water, you don't know what you're doing. 72% of you said you were beginners. 56% of you said that you don't do any other water activity and never have done. So it's not as if you're a sailor and you're transferring those skills across. You have no previous knowledge. 95% of you don't warm up. And that's a big problem because we're seeing lots of injuries, strains, sprains, shoulder injuries, because you're not getting the right advice on buying a paddle. The paddle's too big for you, you're hurting your shoulders, and you're out on the water. You're in that alien environment, and then you've got to try and get back in with a crook shoulder. 45% of you paddle on your own. 46% of you have got into a situation that has meant you've panicked. So that's a dangerous situation, because a lot of what we're going to show you now will help you to stay safe, bearing in mind that it's an activity on the water, so it's never going to be 100% safe. There are risk elements to what we're all doing, hence why we love it. But 46% of you have said you've got into a difficult situation. Now, what we're telling you is hopefully going to get you over those situations so you don't panic, because panic is the killing factor here. 96% of you don't acclimatise, you don't get in the water, acclimatise to the cold conditions. We have cold conditions under 16 degrees for 9-10 months of the year in the UK. So acclimatising is important, because 61% of you said that you fell in your activity. 24% of you don't carry a phone with you. 78% don't wear a PDF, a buoyancy aid of any description, and we'll talk about those in a second. 82% of you do wear a leash, so that's awesome, but that means 18% of you don't wear a leash. 11% of you don't know who to call if you're in trouble or you see someone in trouble on a SUP. Remember, it's 999 Coast Guard. 30% of you don't check the tides or the weather or what's happening out there. So it might be bright and sunny when you go out, but conditions change, especially in a coastal environment. And this is the worrying bit. 24% of you don't actually know why you would even need to check the tides or the weather, which is an educational issue, obviously. Only 4% of you have ever had a lesson, and yet 55% of you want a lesson, which is brilliant. 45% of you don't want a lesson. Can't get my head around that stat really, because it doesn't marry up with the rest of the stats that the 45% clearly aren't all safe. So that's a worry. Now, whilst we did the SUP safety survey, we actually rescued 2 people, and we actually observed 24% of the people paddling with their paddle the wrong way round. So they're really getting the absolute basics wrong when they're out there. And I'll actually be showing a video later that will highlight a little rescue situation that happened today and how easy it is to get into trouble when there are offshore winds but also cross-shore winds. So what have we learned from this week? Well, we have learnt that really it's all about turning what we know so much about at the minute on our head. It seems that the majority of you go and then you just buy a board and then you think about all the afterthoughts. Really, we've got to turn that on its head. Personally, the first thing I would buy if I was getting a SUP is a paddle. I'd get a paddle, the best paddle I could afford to get. That's comfortable, is the right dimension, so that's the head size, and obviously fitted to you, that you are going to be able to paddle, you're not going to get injured, it's not too big, too small, too heavy. Then once I've got my paddle, then I'd get my board. So then I've got my board that I want, whatever it might be. After my board, I make sure I get a leash that is good enough for that board. So the leash I wear on my surf SUP is slightly smaller because it's a much smaller board than I wear on my one of my 14-foot race boards. They are different. So get a leash that's appropriate, but also appropriate to the activity. Do you need an ankle leash, or are you on rivers, moving water estuaries, so you need a leash on your waist? So that's it, I'd get my leash. Then I'd get my personal flotation device, and I'd make sure that it isn't one that's just been sat in the garage for 20 years, because chances are it doesn't float. And when you need it, it needs to float. 30, 40 quid for a cheaper one, but it must be 50 newtons rated to be able to hold an adult afloat. There's lots of discussion about PDFs, flotation devices. Do you get a waist one? Do you get a body one? And I get all that most of you are saying. Obviously, if you get a waist one and you fall and you bang your head, well then you're not going to be able to activate it to use it. But then the argument is, if you've got one of these and you fall and bang your head, this is not a life jacket, it's a buoyancy aid, so if you're unconscious you're still going to be face down in the water. So I do get the problems that people associate with buoyancy aids. But remember, on the sea anything can happen. I've taught outdoor education for over 25 years, and one thing that I have learnt very quickly is when you're on the water, anything can happen. Any eventuality, any what ifs do happen. So to make sure they don't happen to you, or to better your odds, get yourself one of these. And then when you've got all this amazing kit, the thing that people seem to forget about it, the thing that people who are selling SUPs don't always mention to us, is get a lesson. There are so many more schools, whether it be the Academy of Surf Instructors, British Canoeing, BSUPA, which is the British Stand-Up Paddleboarding Association, the Water Skills Academy. There are so many over bodies that then have schools in different areas that teach SUP. The most basic half-an-hour lesson will give you an understanding. Hopefully you'll take an hour or 2 hours and really get to grips with what SUP is all about. Because this whole week of SUP Safety Week is just about you having a fab, amazing adventure on the water and being safe. So, is there anything else to just conclude? Yes, there is. Just one last thing, and this was sent to us from the Coast Guard, the Maritime Coast Guard Agency. They have a real problem at the minute with, let's say, for some reason you get detached from your board and it floats off, and for whatever reason you can't get it and it's floating, and someone finds it. If a board is found, whether it's a stand-up board, whether it's a kayak, anything water related is found, they then have to search, and that might involve a mass search on the water. If you've got this labelled that it belongs to you, they can give you or whoever's number's on there a quick ring, and obviously they can work out that no, you've just lost it and you're perfectly safe at home. That's a free service offered by the Maritime and Coastal Guards Agency. So just look on their website, and you can they can send you free stickers and put it on all your kit. So if you lose it, it's not a problem. Thank you for all that you've done. Thank you for the 50,000 interactions we've had on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram and YouTube. Thank you for the over 3,000 hits we've had on our website on a daily basis. Remember that SUP Safety Week has been brought to you by a charity. That charity is called Above Water. Send lifeguards who are teachers into schools to teach children, to teach teachers how to teach water safety. We're a charity, so we need your support. So if you could, if this has influenced you, if this has helped you in any way, and you've got a spare couple of pounds that you found on the back of the sofa and you'd like to donate to the charity, that would be amazing. So, one last thing, I've been asked 1,000 times this week on recommendations for boards. I won't necessarily recommend particular boards, but I will, over the next couple of days from the charity, just be giving some advice on board purchasing, paddle purchasing and other associated equipment purchasing. Thank you very much for watching. Stay safe on the water, and remember, Above Water is a charity, so please help us if you can. Thank you.